Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the final word. Southampton 2, Everton 0. It feels so long since we've had to talk about a defeat. And I'm going to have to talk about it on my own in the studio. But I am joined by Baz via satellite. So if there's a little delay, it's because it's bouncing off one of the satellites coming back down. Anytime you want to put him on screen, Ned, there he is. There's Baz. There he is. Baz, how are you feeling? I know you're a little bit under the weather. I know it's not quite quarantine behaviour, but it's just general sickness.
Yeah, I'm all right. I've just been a bit under the weather the last few days, and yesterday didn't help me at all. In fact, I was particularly irritable yesterday, as you would have seen in the WhatsApp group.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointing result, wasn't it?
You know what, mate? I think we said this. I think we said it earlier in the week. Is that you can take losing a game, but it's how you lose the game is the thing. And a defeat was always going to come. And I'm trying to take my own advice and accept that it doesn't define our season, that one defeat. But it was the way we lost the game that has really stuck in the throat, rather than just the fact that we lost the game.
Definitely. Just a really, really poor display, and completely different from what we've seen in other games. Other games we've had plenty of goals in us, obviously. We've seen that with our goal difference before the game. We've always had something going for us, haven't we? Even when we haven't been playing maybe at our best, like last week in the Merseyside derby. But yesterday there was just nothing there, and it always seems to be this thing where it's not just one or two. It's like the whole team, isn't it? It's like it spreads through the team, and I can't put my finger on why. I'm not going to say continue to happen, just that when we don't play well, it just seems to be everybody. Like I think back to like the Wolves game. That's what this game really reminded me of. A decent start, but then once the other team figured us out, it was game over.
Yeah, it did. It did feel very last season-y, didn't it? Definitely, we hadn't seen anything like that this season. I think obviously the loss of the Richarlison is really big for us. Because we haven't really got a like for like. I know you're never gonna have exactly a like for like replacement for him, but we haven't even got anyone that can go and do that job to any decent level, I don't think. And that was a big drop off. And then obviously not having Seamus Coleman, and that's not having a go at Ben Godfrey, by the way, because he's obviously a centre back playing this, but just the natural side of Seamus Coleman's game is to get forward, albeit he does it, sparingly now because he's playing, the game as an older player, so he can't do doggies all night. Just lose, and then even in midfield as well. I know Andre Gomez hasn't been very good, but Gylfi come in yesterday and didn't. It just seemed like last season there was too many insipid performers yesterday, and that was really what once we went behind we couldn't recover from.
Yeah, let's just talk about the team for a moment. So obviously no Richarlison, no Seamus Coleman. We knew Ben Godfrey was going to come in anyway because John Joe Kenny was out. Iwobi started, Sigurdsson started. To be fair, it was the team I picked, so I can't really have a go at anyone because I picked exactly the same team. But I suppose when you have a team in your head and you've seen other performances, you expect similar levels, but it doesn't always work out like that. And I think ultimately what happened, certainly with Iwobi and Sigurdsson, is they ended up playing in the same position. And instead of having that extra midfielder who was a true midfielder, who helped break up the game, who helped keep position, possession. We just ended up having two players in very, very similar position and I think that left us light in midfield ultimately because of those two. And that ultimately said to me that Iwobi and Sigurdsson just can never play ever again in the same team.
Not in close proximity to each other, definitely, on that left-hand side. I think what we'd seen so far this season is we'd seen Iwobi that had only started one game, and that was away at Fleetwood in the Cup. And Gylfi, in general, had been a sub and coming on when the game had slowed down a bit and was able to really start to have an effect on games, or certainly was able to do okay in games and, use the ball well. But I think yesterday, just having those two playing, I mean, I had a look before at the average positions. I sent you the thing, and they were almost like holding hands, and that isn't how it's. If you look at when Richarlison plays, he hugs the touchline and he's higher up the pitch, and I think that was evident yesterday. We just didn't have any get out at all. Gylfi, he had that one great strike in the first 20 minutes, which, a couple of inches lower, and it's another one to add to his golden strikes for Everton. He scores a lot of has scored a lot of great goals for us. But other than that, he offered very, very little. And we just couldn't seem to get into it. James, to me,
no.
I understand why they played him, of course, but he didn't look fit. And it was just a bit of a mishmash, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. It was, wasn't it? It was, you go and look at our team in the first few games, there was a nice little balance. And certainly when we were talking about, like, say, could Gylfi for Sigurdsson replace Andre Gomez? With that work rate of Richarlison up and down, you could probably get away with it, but I think this game certainly proved that you just can't get away with Sigurdsson and Iwobi because, like if you just said, they were just on top of each other all the time. But as you said, it was an all right first 20 minutes. We controlled a lot of the ball without doing too much with it, and then you could see Southampton starting to probe our right-hand side. And as we said, Ben Godfrey had come in and it was full debut. He'd done all right on his partial debut at Goodison coming on in the derby. And to be fair, it wasn't like we had any other options. John Joe was injured after receiving a knock in training last week. So it was one of those things of we had to. But unfortunately, they'd probably seen how Liverpool had tested us early on last week and how they targeted the right-hand side as well. And this is where they started to get joy. And with James Rodriguez not really offering much defensive cover, but also, like you just said, looking like he wasn't fully fit, looking like he hadn't trained for most of the week. They almost played like with two wingers, didn't they? Both lads on that side played really high up and kept on getting 2-on-1, and we just couldn't deal with it. And we had an early let-off where the ball just went wide of the post. There was another one that was miskicked, but we just couldn't deal with that ball coming down their left-hand side.
Yeah, they had Bertrand and Nathan Redmond, didn't you? Who are there probably two of their most attacking players going down, like you say, at a side where we haven't got a specialist fullback playing. A lad just come into the team and James not tracking back. And we know that was always going to be an issue there because you've got someone who's that good going forward that you don't, not every player is like Richarlison, are they? And gives you that incredible work rate. So, and that's not having a go at James. He's been the same in every game. And we've coped with it because obviously Seamus knows how to play that role. But I just feel like we just couldn't work it out. They'd had a run down the left, like you say, the one with the miss it, and it was almost a carbon copy of Mane's goal last week, and that was in the first 10 minutes. We got cut back, but
it was
our
almost
midfielders
the same as Henderson's as well, though.
But midfielders have got to run though with them players going in. Alam was a little bit sluggish there, and other people have got to. You've got to have that awareness around you who's marking who. But I think when we got the ball, certainly in the opening 20 minutes, I felt like we could cause them issues. We had one where Michael Keane plays a great ball, and if Iwobi's a yard quicker, he's in, and it went away from him. But then we had like I say, the Sigurdsson one, which was James coming in field and playing a left-footed crossfield ball, and Iwobi had hit one into the side netting. So we'd looked like we were threatening, but obviously that their left-hand side, was a real problem for them. You know, maybe we to get the double up with Godfrey. But I just think Godfrey's natural. This isn't having a go at Ben Godfrey, and to be fair, I'd play him next Sunday as well, because he'll be up against St. Maxim, who's a runner, who's quick, and I just think Kenny will get exposed by him. But I think what Ben Godfrey needs to do when he's playing in that position as a fullback is go out and meet the ball. I think if you look at where their goals come from, he's standing off the fullback. He's standing off the person who's delivering the cross, and you've got to go and close the ball down. But, you know, like you say, the opening 20, I was okay with it. I thought we looked like we carried the threat, but once that passed, we quickly ran out of ideas.
Yeah, and the irony was, their first goal came from down their right, not our right. Just completely fell asleep from a throw-in, and it's a little 1-2. And, you know, Ward Prowse gets a good strike on it, and it flies past Jordan Pickford. But it is just people switching off, wasn't it? And it all started with Michael Keane letting a ball go out for a throw-in, where if he'd been, like, switched on, you know, he was almost like looking for an option before he actually had the ball under control. And it's just like those little things that are annoying, that wind you up, that if you're on your game, those things don't happen.
Avoidable mistakes. Well, I'd come down our right, because if you remember, a cross came in, we half cleared it, and Romeo hit the ball back in. Pickford makes a good save, and then Keane can hack it down the line. Even if you're going to give a throw-in away, give it away 30 yards further up the pitch, and it goes out, and we do fall asleep, and it's, you know, they take a quick one, it gets laid off, and then Danny Ings plays it through Michael Keane's legs. And Luca Deans fell asleep, and Ward Prowse is the wrong side of him, and he can't make a challenge then. You know, whereas if we're switched on, Dean gets across Ward Prowse, and there's no danger. He deals with it, and he doesn't. He's looking the other way, and once the lad gets across him and can't touch him in the box, it's a penalty, and he finished it really well. And I've seen people who blame Pickford for it. I don't think you can blame Jordan Pickford for that. It was last beyond him, and you're 1-0 down, and then it's can you react from that? And this season so far, we had reacted when we gone behind, or certainly when we conceded the goal, but we just didn't react. It just looked like last season. We just looked like the heads went down, and you know, that was the frustrating thing about it.
Yeah, there was very little fight in us, and when I say fight, I don't mean in a mood. I mean just in a general body language or energy wise, you know what I mean? It wasn't like there was no one yesterday that looked like they could really give it 100%. There was a lot of players who just looked so below. Alan, you know, you look at his performance and how there was one moment in the second half where he just couldn't get back. He looked like he was running in treacle, do you know what I mean? It was like there was a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the discipline went after the first goal. And that's something, again, we haven't seen this season. You know, I think Alan's best performances for us has been when he's just sat and anchored. And he's got hold of the ball, and he's done well for us. And yesterday, it looked as though he was trying to play higher up the pitch.
Yeah, and I thought that.
I don't understand that, because he's been so good at doing what we're doing. And I just think for Everton, there was one we didn't speak about it, but it was at 0-0, and it was a great move, and it led to Dominic Calvert-Lewin being fouled and James Rodriguez hitting a free kick. But it was the only real time he got the Corey breaking into the penalty area, and it was a lovely move. And if Dom plays a left-footed pass into the path of the Corey, we'd split Southampton. He was in on goal, and he doesn't, Dom. He turns the other way and is fouled. But it's just that little moment. If he goes the other way, we've got the Corey in on goal. You know, and if he slots, it's one of them games yesterday, I felt, where the first goal is absolutely key, because I think if we'd have got it, it'd have obviously built the confidence. they'd have had to come out at us, because what they're really good at, they're well organised, and they run pressure really well. They run everywhere. So, given then the impetus of the goal, just made it more difficult for us. And then we did lose our discipline, and I think that's something we need to get back next week, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that opportunity, because that was the only real time the Corey run past Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It wasn't enough of that. Do you think that maybe something Carlo Ancelotti will look at is maybe make the Corey the the furthest forward centre midfielder? Because I felt exactly like you did about Alan. There was periods of the game where I seen him running back, and I'm thinking to myself, why are you running back? Why aren't you just sitting in front of that back four? Why are you all over the pitch? That should be the Corey's job. So I was thinking, well, a game like that, and you're absolutely right, a game like that where Southampton get the lead, they are one of those teams then will sit in and try and play in the counter-attack. They're very good at it. It's when they go behind first that, they're vulnerable. And in hindsight, you look at that game and think, maybe Alan, if he sits in front of that back four, and then you've got someone like Delph, or ultimately someone like Gabaman, and then allow Decore to be the highest player, to join up, to go past Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to use that attacking ability. Because I just thought, like you said there, with Alan all over the place, Decore chasing around as well, and then Sigurdsson just hogging the left-hand side, it just meant that they had two midfielders who didn't do anything but sit in midfield. They had that discipline that we didn't have. So when people say they got the betters in midfield, it's because their midfield just stayed where it was and didn't do and just give it to the better players.
They've got an energy about them, haven't they? Which is what Hasselhoff has brought to them. They had Armstrong back, and he was up and down. Like I said, the other side, both of their wings were good. Walker Peters was getting forward. They had Bertrand and Redmond on the other side. But you're right, they had the axis of Romeo and Ward-Prowse in the middle, and Ward-Prowse, as he proved for the goal, did go and join in. And you can, but Everton's midfield didn't. And that was the difference. And I don't know, I think looking forward, then Gabaman comes in. He can either do that role or he can sit in the six, and then obviously Alan can go and become the presser then and go and harry and battle. But I just think because he's made that role his own since the start of the land and just sat and accessed for us, we've been great with our shape. And yet yesterday, we were quick to give that up. I think Sigurdsson doesn't offer enough in that role. And when you look with hindsight, like you said, is a wonderful thing. Maybe Andre Gomez brings more to our midfield than what we give him credit for. And what I mean by that is gets his foot on the ball and turns and keeps hold of it and makes passes. Okay, he's not the most mobile, but we didn't have anyone yesterday who would get hold of the ball for us. Sigurdsson and Iwobi, just like we said before, just played in the same position. And I just think that was unbalanced. The problem is when you have Alisson in the team, and then you've got Iwobi and Sigurdsson, and then you've got not a fully fit James Rodriguez, you've got having to come further and further back. So he's almost in the end playing like a number 10. So you got nothing further forward. Or if you can get it as far forward as you can to Dom, you haven't got anyone near him. And so that midfield then becomes, when you've got no Richarlison, that midfield becomes imperative that it gets up and breaks. And like we were saying with the Decore thing, that's the only time we did it. And yesterday, there would have been more of a reliance on doing that because we didn't have Richarlison. And so that to me was easy for Southampton because they got the goal, they sat, pressed us. And let's be honest, after the goal, did we create another thing? I can't. I honestly can't remember a decent chance we had.
We didn't have runners, did we? You talk about Richard. One of the things people don't always notice about Richarlison is he's a left winger and a striker, and he gets back in his own box, and it's like he patrols that whole side, and that makes Dean's job easier. It means James Rodriguez, when he gets the ball, has always got an out ball.
Yeah,
and yesterday, with the Wolves being so static, it was, we never had that out ball either. And going back to what you said about Godfrey Godfrey only got forward, I think, once, maybe in the entire game. He threw a cross into the box. And I know that's not his fault because he is a centre-back. But that just shows you how much we're missing Seamus Coleman or that just a natural right-back who goes forward. And, you know, something I've gone on for a while about we you know, that's got to be the next position we look at, isn't it? It's got to be, because when he's not playing, just that energy he gives us, even if he goes round James Rodriguez 5 or 6 times and just takes that player with him, it gives James Rodriguez that extra couple of seconds to pick his head up and float a ball to the left-hand side, and suddenly we've changed the way we play. Whereas yesterday, it was so noticeable how many times James Rodriguez was getting very, very little time to find that pass, and because of that, he couldn't open Southampton up.
No. I mean, he'd done the switch a few times, hadn't he, early on, over to the left-hand side, but we didn't. There was even one where Luca Dean goes on the outside and the Wobie only has to roll it into him, and we've got the cross and he hesitates. And Dean has to slam the brakes on, and then it breaks down. It's little things like that. Against a team that works that hard, you have to match them for their work rate. And I don't think Everton did match them for the work rate. And ultimately, we didn't have anyone further forward to support Dom. And therefore, when it went up to Dom, he had 2 big lads around him. And, you know, we just didn't get any. We didn't look like ourselves yesterday. There
was a real lack of chemistry, wasn't he? That's what I noticed. There's a real, you know, especially in those wide areas where we've had all our joy so far this season. There's no chemistry at all linking it. I think that's where we started so well. Dean and Richarlison, Seamus Coleman and James Rodriguez, the switches of play, people knowing what they're doing. Even in the centre midfield area, like we've just talked about, people knowing their jobs. Yesterday, to me, I just felt like people didn't know what their jobs were, or the person next to them was what their job was. And I think in the end, that was a big reason why we look so poor.
Yeah, totally agree. What we need to do is if we're gonna play Godfrey again this week, we're gonna have to get him making runs on the outside, because he showed one yesterday where he lost the ball, but then he got back. His pace it's incredible, really. He's so quick that he was able to get back and win the ball back on the edge of our box. And like I say, next week at Newcastle, he's going to be up against St. Maxim, he's very, very quick himself. And so therefore, you know, you've obviously got to be wary of that. But if he doesn't offer us that dummy run down the right, then James is just going to be closed down again, because everybody is just going to start saying, especially with not having Richarlison in the team, double up on Rodriguez, because you can do it. The reason why it worked really well for us so far this season is you can't double up on everyone, because if you double up on Richarlison, it means Luca Dean's got space behind him. If you double up on Rodriguez, it means Decore got space short. So that teams have found it really difficult to stop us, hence why we scored so many goals. And yet yesterday we're missing one of them, and we end up with no goals for the first time this season. You know, the first time in about 8 or 9 games we haven't scored a goal in. So it was a real disappointment, that. But like I said, it was the response to go on a goal down, and worse to go on 2 goals down. Was the response really poor from us.
Like I said before, just a real lack of energy, or just a feeling that we couldn't get back into the game. And that's second goal's poor, isn't it? It's just a deep cross. Like you said before, the cross should have been stopped. People not getting tight enough. And Gylfi Sigurdsson finds himself with 2 players at the back post. No idea how that happens. He can't get it away, and then ultimately there's a knock on the shot that takes the ball past Jordan Pickford, really.
Yeah, Sigurdsson realises he can't win the header, goes over his head, and then he just drops back into that 6-yard box and sticks a leg out at Che Adams' shot, and it hits his foot and goes beyond Jordan Pickford, you know, deflects past him. And it's that little bit of the rub of the green you need, of course, with those shots, that it hits someone and goes past the keeper. But, you know, it was a poor goal to concede. We get out, stop the cross, at least hold it up, you can get your shape. And we didn't, and we were 2-0 down. And, you know, without even just looking like we were even in the game at that stage, you know, there was a real worry that they'd run away with it from there, because they had it all their own way. And we got fortunate that, well, not fortunate, but it all, a few minutes later, it looks like it's 3-0 when Adams runs through and cuts it back and Armstrong finishes it brilliantly, but he was well offside. But, at that minute, you're thinking, God, this could end up anything because we just lost our discipline totally.
Yeah, and it's things we spoke, how many times we spoke about conceding 2 goals so quick together. And that's, and it, we got it, I mean, half-time, obviously, 2-0, and we were looking for a response. He took a Iwobi off, obviously. But nothing really seemed to change, did it? None of the players who came on really made a difference. Bernard was...
I thought Gordon did. I thought Gordon gave... What Gordon does, but what Gordon does more than the others is, at least he's trying to get into the final third. He's direct, isn't he? Whereas Iwobi and Bernard who've been up there, they're not direct. They come back inside and play. I thought Gordon was... I gave Gordon man of the match because everyone else was that bad, I thought.
No, I mean, you're right. No, I mean, listen, Bernard done nothing. Ultimately did nothing apart from kick a couple of people. Delph was okay. Yeah. And he did settle that midfield down, and I do wonder whether he'll start him now on Sunday because, like we said before, he allows other people to go and do their job and he'll sit. So, if, like you said, if Alan wants to go and press, maybe then Delph will sit in front of the back four. And then Decore's a little bit more sure of his role. And then the wide men then have got a little bit more freedom. Also, Delph might be quicker to spot the issues at full back as well and get over and help out maybe at right back. We'll have to wait and see. But Gordon, I mean, what I would say is he hasn't been on the bench and stuff, but he is someone who just wants to get his head down and run down the wing and commit people. Whereas Iwobi, it's too many touches. Bernard, it's the same, and he's too deep. He doesn't pick the ball up. He doesn't run at any moment pace. So maybe Gordon's done enough to start on Sunday. I don't know, but we really didn't make anything. We didn't do anything. Dominic Calvert-Lewin started coming deeper and deeper and deeper, and without any midfielders running past them, it was strange. But what did you make of Decore going off? Because I found that a little bit strange.
Yeah, that was the I couldn't understand. I really couldn't. I think when you took him off, you took away any mobility that we had in that midfield. Like I said, Alan, for me, is the axis. He sits in front of the back four. Delph, you're right, come on and settle things down a bit. But Decore going off made no sense to me at all. Really didn't. I think he's the one on because he can do both jobs and get about the pitch. Not saying he was great, don't get me wrong, but he was the one who can do both jobs. But you're right, we just didn't do a thing in that second half, and it was very, very disappointing. We didn't even have a shot, I don't think. It was really poor.
It was a whimper, wasn't it? To lose our first game, to do it that way in such a whimper. Let's just have a look at the...
I think that's it.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's the thing that'll disappoint everybody. It wasn't the fact that if we did really well or looked like we hadn't but got beat, you go, well, that's football. It happens. But it was just the way we lost was really disappointing.
Let's just have a look at the stats. 54% possession, Southampton, 46 Everton, 13 shots, so our 6 on target for them, 2 on target for us. 4 corners then, 5 corners for us, and 11 fouls each for such a dirty team. It wasn't too bad, but I mean, obviously Luca Dean getting sent off in the second half didn't help either, and obviously with everything that's gone on this week, that just put the nail in the coffin, didn't it? Really, for us and for all the people out there who love to see it.
Yeah, it was just the cherry on the cake for Big Red and the media, wasn't it? And all of the nonsense that's been written over the last week. I think Evertonians were not physically enough and need to compete more. But the red card was the red card. I'm not going to say it wasn't a red, but we just didn't need that given the way the week had gone. But it compounded it, didn't it? And it also meant there was no chance at all once they gone off there of any kind of comeback whatsoever. Because listen, you're always looking and thinking, you know, I was thinking to myself just before that, well, if we got a goal, you know, West 3-0 down last week with 8 minutes left, if you get a goal, it can change the whole complexion of a game, and you can get a goal from anywhere. But once the red card came, it was all over, wasn't it? And that was it, you know, and 10 men. And I guess the only good thing after that was we didn't concede a game.
Yeah.
If you're looking for any kind of positive to take out of it, because we didn't let another goal in.
Yeah, and I was obviously with the goal difference. I was thinking, oh God, down to 10 men here, thinking what a weekend it would end up being if we end up dropping to second place, allow no to go above us because we've done our own goal difference in.
Yeah, but, I know. Really, really, really disappointing, frustrating, annoying. And hopefully we'll put it right next week and get Nkunku in at left back and get some power and pace down at left. And I'd start Gordon as well and just say, listen, let's put them on the back foot, you know, early doors and see whether that makes a mistake, whether that makes any difference.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be games without Richarlison, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously and it's another game that we haven't won without him as well.
You said it before. It's not just what you get in the final third. He defensively, he's brilliant. He's great in the air, off set plays in both boxes. But the other thing as well is that when it goes up to Dominic Calvert, close to him, he gets there, and if players are throwing crosses in, he's in the penalty area as well. We haven't got any. It's not the fact that he's really good, because he is, but we haven't even got anyone who mirrors what he does. If you get a player who can almost set the things that he does, who might have the same quality, you get away with it. It's one of the reasons why I really wanted Josh King to run a game, but just naturally will play up there and get himself in those positions. But we haven't got it. There's nothing we can do about it now, and we go for next week. And maybe Ellis Sims or someone who scored a game for the 23s the other day, maybe he'll go up there, because we're going to need it there, because we lose him.
Yeah, it's food for thought, isn't it, for the manager moving forward? So,
how did he show, isn't it? We were always going to lose a game. It's how we respond now. That'll tell us everything.
Everyone's lost a game now in the Premier League. We were the last to lose our unbeaten record, and now it's real. Now we've got to see a response, because there's a lot of people out there who feel like, oh, this is the true Everton, or this is a more real representation of Everton. Well, it's a more real representation of our squad. I'll give you that. We knew no one here was sitting around thinking it was going to be amazing all season. We knew if you scratch the surface of our squad, you're not going to find that much. And in this game, it's proved that. So, listen, if you want to watch the full version, the full extended version of The Final Word, make sure to check that out over on our Patreon. The link is in the description. Let us know your thoughts on this game in the comments. Give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.